Nighttime scenes are some of the hardest situations to light, not because it requires a massive amount of lighting, but actually the exact opposite sometimes. Within darker scenes, it's really easy to tell that something is off when it comes to lighting. Too much contrast, you can't see your characters. Too little contrast, it just looks fake. So what are some options that DPs have in order to make these scenes look realistic? I've put together 3 setups that are pretty simple and don't require a bunch of gear that I found to be pretty cool. This lighting setup is solely based on practical light sources in the scene, so that could be just household lamps or maybe just little aperture MCs you put around the set. What you want to have happen is have your actor or actress be nearby a practical source that can then illuminate them or key them. For wider shots, placing the practical in the scene with the subject in order to give some context of where the light is coming from works pretty well. Then for the close-ups, I simply place the subject between the light and the camera and to add some backlighting to give the scene a little bit of depth. This style is extremely contrasty though, which is great if you're going for that look. But if you want to add a little bit of fill, just add some white next to them with either a white card or bounce or something white in order to just kind of reflect some of that light back on the shadow side of their face, just to make it a little bit of a brighter image, if that's what you're going for. And that's it. The nicest thing about this setup is it's the most affordable option out there. All you really need is a simple household lamp or overhead light or bare bulb and you're done. Now this one is a little bit more involved. The intention of this is to add some depth to the world that you're shooting in. Obviously in the normal world, the moonlight is not going to be this bright, but on camera it makes everything look really nice and contrasty. And when you don't really have it in the scene just kind of looks flat and your windows sort of just become this black mass that doesn't really have anything behind it. So to help with the depth, you put a light outside of your set and shine it into the area where you want the moonlight to be coming from. Similar to how you would do it with the sunlight, but make it a little bit cooler to make it look like a moon and maybe turn this brightness down a little bit. Then inside, take another light to key the subject or fill the subject, and you can maybe even throw a practical behind them if you want, just to help motivate the light. This adds some dimensionality to your frame and can even get some context of the world that your story is taking place in. It's a bit more involved though, because it requires having 2 lights, which may be unavailable to some, and honestly a spotlight is pretty nice to have for that moon effect. But you can get away with using practical house lights to illuminate the interior while your light hit an exterior area or is hitting through the window. Now, I personally haven't attempted this next one, but I thought adding a pretty stylized example could be a fun challenge. The goal of this style is to produce an effect that the only light in the home is surrounding the subject without making it seem like an unnatural spotlight. So the way you can do this is by booming a light over top of your subject. I put this softbox modifier on my 100x just to add some diffusion to the light, make it softer. If you don't have a softbox, you can always just hang some diffusion material to achieve the same exact type of softness. And lastly, I just put some black neg fill just so that way I could add some contrast back to my face a little bit. And then I turned the TV on to make it look like I was watching some television. You could also play around with the background here, adding some colors and taking away and adding light when you see fit, just to add to your contrast ratio. I wanted to add this last one here. Pretty simple idea. You just take the spotlight and you aim it at a table and then it bounces back into your face. And I thought it was pretty sweet how I was able to get the mirror effect coming from the back screen of my A7S II reflecting back into my face to light me up. So we're actually double bouncing, which I thought was pretty fun. So those are just 3 options for nighttime setups. Obviously there's a bunch more out there, and hopefully these could be a nice starting place next time you're looking at doing a night shoot.